Good evening. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. I'll be tonight's host. And with me, I have my good friend Al Robinson, who I'd like to have an opportunity to talk about the Democratic Town Committee in Danbury and what's going on. What's going on there? There was some shakeup, and I'm curious of what's happening.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me on your show. It's been a long time.
Always a pleasure, though.
Since I used to be down at this studio every Thursday with Marty. Doing our little back and forth.
Oh my God, yes. Same old Marty.
He'll never change. No. Never change. Republican to the end. And it's like, give me my bowl. I want my soup.
Yeah.
All right. So, no, things in Danbury are same old, as I would call it.
Yeah.
The Democratic Town Committee now had a primary for wards 1, 2, and 5. Mm-hmm. And people who won those particular wards are, in essence, were able to change the leadership of the town committee again. So now we have a new chairperson of the town committee.
Mm-hmm. Who is?
The town committee chair is now former Mayor Gene Eriquez. He was the mayor from 1989 to 2001. The person who held the seat before that was Joe Wakovich, who is a very well-known Democrat in the area. I don't need to go through his resume, but I
remember he and Lynn Tabersack had a classic battle when she first was elected to the state house.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
1982ish, something like that.
Yeah, I won't tell Lynn you brought that up, but basically, I put it to you like this: we have a situation where you have to go back to the time when Mr. Eriquez decided not to run anymore for mayor, mm-hmm. and thus gave us a primary battle between two Democrats who wanted to run for mayor, and basically split the Democratic Town Committee into two. I like to call it Group A and Group B. And Group A and Group B have been going at it ever since. So now it's about 15 years of this. What's nonsense?
If there is a philosophical difference between the two groups, what's the philosophical difference?
I really don't know. I don't think
personalities.
I think it's a personal.
So
it's more personal than anything else.
So they're kind of in tune with one another, but there's this clash of personalities then?
It's just a lot of, I don't like that person and I don't like this person. Mm-hmm. And in the end, it just gets in the way of progressives in this area or Democrats in this area. We've been suffering because of this ongoing nasty nonsense going between these two groups for basically the last 15 years. We talked a little bit before about the history of the town committee in the last, let's say I've been following the town committee closely since my website, Hat City Blog, started in 2005. So between 2005...
Shout out Hat City Blog. It's
cheap plug. So between 2005 and 2016, we've had, we had a candidate in 2005 who's now the mayor's chief of staff.
Yeah.
We had
Who's that?
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's been such a long time.
It's 11 years.
So we had 2007. We had a candidate in 2007. Yeah. And that candidate in 2007 actually ran a pretty decent race, and a lot of things happened in that time period.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she didn't win. In 2009 was the last Democratic Town Committee endorsed candidate, for the exception of...
Was that Gary Goncalves?
Gary Goncalves.
Yeah.
And I put an asterisk towards that because Lynn Tabersack actually ran after Gary. But I don't really include Lynn because she was the chairperson of the town committee at that time, and she basically took one for the team because she couldn't find a candidate. So I don't really want to say that Lynn was an actually endorsed candidate, although she was the head of the town committee.
Yeah, she did what she had to do under the circumstances because nobody else stepped forward.
Exactly. After that, we had Mr. McAllister, who ran for mayor, but he wasn't endorsed by the Democratic Town Committee because they didn't have a candidate. He came on after their little convention that they had.
Yeah. So
to make a long story short, we haven't had a candidate since 2009. What we've had is a lot of infighting, a lot of petty nonsense that's happening, and it's continued to this day. The primary that has happened and the events that has happened leading up to the primary is nothing more than, in my opinion, but petty personal politics. The nastiness that is ensued should not inspire any Democrat to support this town committee or Democrats in general in Danbury. I've known people. I know these people on both sides of this petty feud. Considered many of them friends for a long period of time.
You're the guy that gets along with everybody pretty much, so, you know.
It's not about getting along. It's just about, I'm very supportive of I'm a progressive. I don't run My Left Nutmeg for no reason.
Shout out to My Left Nutmeg.
Another shameless plug. I raised my kids in this area.
Yeah.
My kids were born here. My late wife was born here. We wanted to raise a family in this area, and I am very progressive. So when I see things like the Dorsey Day House soup kitchen being under attack, that really bothers me. When I saw people, immigrants in this area being attacked, that bothered me a lot. There's values that are progressive that I hold very dearly that I don't think are being well represented by this town committee. I don't see much of a difference with this town committee now than what we had in the past. And they're saying, hey, we're going to change things in Danbury. I'm like, well, the people who are in the town committee now, running the town committee right now, the same people who gave us the 2005, 2007, and 2009 candidates. And on top of the candidates for mayor, we haven't had, to this day, from 2005 to now, I can say without question, the Democratic Town Committee has been unable to capture one city council seat. Now, in that time period, we've had 2 Democrats win spots on the city council, but I would not say the Democratic Town Committee had very much to do with that. Lynn Tabersack was one, but Lynn Tabersack was a very well-known person when she ran for her position in 2005. The other person was Warren Levy, and without question, I would say that Warren Levy, victory to the city council had zero to do with the Democratic Town Committee because he didn't have a whole lot of respect for the Democratic Town Committee in the first place. So those 2 individuals who were Democrat, and actually Warren Levy's now a Republican because he got so fed up with the state of affairs among the Democratic Party in Danbury. So, we don't. They have been ineffective in getting candidates. Period. Ineffective putting the full slate together and. To the last leadership under Walkovich, yes, he did not have a full slate, didn't have a candidate for mayor, but if you look at the history of the town committee, they haven't had a full slate since 2007, and they haven't been able to attract a candidate since 2009. And to go even one step further, Gary Goncalves, if it wasn't for probably if it wasn't for Gene Eriquez, he wouldn't have had a candidate in 2009 in the first place. So these people who gave us the candidates of 2005, 7, and 9. And on top of giving us they didn't have a candidate until Mr. McAllister came, are the people running the town committee now. So no, I don't have a lot of hope for the town committee. I wish them the best, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot changing.
In Connecticut, we have public financing, and I would have thought back when it came into play in 2008, and I ran as a candidate against David Scribner in the 108th. 107th, and it was a time where we had such great hope. Everybody had such great hope that with public financing, with more of a level playing field, that you would see multiple candidates and at least 2 candidates, at least 2 quality candidates, at least 2 perspectives in every House and every Senate seat in Connecticut. It hasn't played out that way.
No,
it's a lot of seats. A lot of seats go uncontested, and now we're seeing a lot of mayoral races go uncontested. A lot of, it's both parties, Republicans and Democrats, kind of throw in the towel before the race even begins and don't even endorse anyone.
Well, it's hard to find it. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's somewhat difficult to find candidates. Now, with that being said, the Republicans right now, especially in the 110th and the 138, are out the gates running full throttle. You have the editor of the Tribune newspaper in Danbury. She is running against Bob Godfrey. Raised a lot of money online. Very impressive. Has a very good resume.
Now that's for public financing.
She's working for public financing, but she's out and running now, and this is like March. In the 138th, we have a candidate who's out and running, working his tail off to try to collect the money for public financing. And they're out running and doing that stuff now. Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, you don't have a candidate for 138 announced yet. I would assume that Henry Hall would probably run for the 138, but I would think that he should have announced by now. Get out there, get running, get your message out there. This is an open seat, and they've been trying forever to get the 138, and you have an opportunity to do it now. Let's do it. You have a state Senate seat.
Start the conversation.
Start the conversation now. Danbury only has 1 state senator. which is absolutely outrageous because Bethel has two. Danbury, which is the seventh largest city in the state of Connecticut, only has one.
That's true, yeah. Bethel's got the overlapping ones.
Tony Boucher and Mike McLaughlin. But Mike McLaughlin is the state senator in Danbury. And we don't hear anything about Mike McLaughlin amongst the town committees, or we don't see any I don't see any candidates in the horizon. It's unfortunate. It's sad. I think incumbents need to be challenged. I think people running unopposed it's not good for our democracy. It's not good for our community.
True.
There's a lot of issues that should be addressed, and they should be held accountable for a lot of, like Dan Carter, for instance, in the second district. He actually advocated on Facebook that if people are upset about the state of affairs in Connecticut, they should just leave the state. And it's an outrageous. And that
doesn't sound like something he meant lightly.
No, look, he put it on Facebook. He knew what he was saying, and he was responding. He was responding positively to people who were supporting him. And then he, once the negative comments came, he actually whitewashed his page and deleted the comment. People who make comments like that, or people like Dan Carter who votes on gun control the way he did, representatives from Newtown.
Newtown's part of his district.
Voting against gun control. I mean, come on. He should be held accountable for these things. And also Dan Carter was one of the few people who supported Mike McLaughlin's birther bill. He needs to be held accountable by a challenger for this. Now, the last challenger, Candace Fay, ran a very good campaign. But now this is a presidential election year, and the turnout gets higher. You have a better chance of taking the seat, and we need to have challengers out there to hold these incumbents accountable for the things they've done, not only in our community, but with the stuff they do up there in Hartford.
And again, not just one party or the other, not just Democrats or Republicans, but both parties need to get candidates out there and engage in conversation and talk about, because that's the only thing anything gets accomplished.
Yeah,
is through conversation.
A healthy debate on the issues is what's needed. And what the public finance program allows you to do is you don't have to go out there and just raise money all the time, or rely upon PACs, which is, I can't stand political action committees. In fact, right now we have a political action committee here in Danbury, which is called the Hat PAC, which is chaired by Gene Eriquez, who's also the chair of the Democratic Town Committee, which is under a serious investigation by the State Elections Enforcement Commission. So far, they've been fined nearly $1,000 for not filing their paperwork properly. And the paperwork they filed is so littered with errors, I could see a lot more money being, fines being leveled their way. And this is one of the problems I have. If the Citizens Elections Program was designed so we don't have to deal with PACs and their shadiness, and people and candidates don't have to spend their whole time just campaigning all the time for fundraising, we should be able to talk about issues and have a real dialogue so people can be very much informed about the direction they want to take their community.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but I'm with you on the PACs. I mean, I never liked the notion of PACs.
No, absolutely, I cannot stand PACs.
And public financing of elections is a sacred thing here in Connecticut, and we're working very hard to maintain that. It's not expensive. It provides us with. It should have provided us with a lot more candidates than it has. And
it's not a bad thing. I can't say it's the. I mean, the program has had some faults in it. Depending upon what position who you're running for, you have to get you know how it is, a certain amount of money by a certain number of contributions. And the whole formula is kind of strange. It takes a little while to learn the whole formula, But look, it's better than nothing. And it had if Republicans out there complaining about it, but Republicans are signing up for the program as well.
Oh, absolutely, and it's easy to raise money because, in the case of Dan Carter's got constituents in Newtown, Bethel, Reading, Danbury. So he's got 4 towns to look to for $5 contributions. So it's pretty easy to raise.
Right, and remember, it's not about the raising of the money. It's about the number of contributions you get.
It should be easy to get. I think it's with 200 contributions, and it has to add up to like $5,000 or
something like that.
It's not a huge amount of money to come up with, and it really does free candidates up for discussion, for serious discussion, for debates, for commentary, and for meeting people, and
that's why, again,
answering questions and being held accountable for votes that they make.
Right.
And
that's why, again, when it's actually, in my opinion, a little easier to run for a state rep or state senate seat as opposed to a municipal election, because on a local level, you got to get out there and you just got to,
Yeah.
You rely heavily on the town committee for the phones and all that stuff, but you got to get out there and pound the pavement and do what you can to raise the money. Once you raise that money in the state rep level, or state senate level, you're free to do whatever you want and speak to your constituents. Which is why there is no excuse not to have candidates for these to take on these incumbents. I think it's very important. I think for a healthy democracy, we need to have the incumbents challenged, because it's the only way you can hold them accountable for a lot of stuff they do up in Hartford. As you know very well, in Danbury, you don't know much about what's happening in Hartford unless you read, the Hartford Current.
Yeah.
I mean, heaven forbid you read about some vote that a person did up in Hartford in the Danbury News-Times. That's unless some phenomenal bill, some extra extraordinary bill, you won't hear about much that's happening up in Hartford. It's very important to hold these people accountable because the decisions they make in Hartford affects you here on a local level.
Sure. Yeah.
And even more so than on the federal level. I mean, things that happen in Hartford has an immediate impact on a lot of things that happen in our area.
And the overarching complaint about politicians, about candidates and politicians in general, is that they're self-serving and they're lazy. And if a candidate doesn't have opposition in a primary or in a general election and doesn't have to actually explain their votes and talk about the issues, that's going to make that just opens the door for those candidates to become lazy.
Yeah,
it's human nature. It's the dark side of political human nature.
And not only that, incumbents, multi-term incumbents, have a certain level of hubris.
Yeah.
That comes their way, where they don't feel that they need to respond or give feedback to their constituents.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that, a lot of these long-term ones. That's why it's really important that every single incumbent be held accountable with a challenger and be held accountable for the votes that they make. It's the only way to keep people in check, because once the election is over, they're off in Hartford. They can do whatever they want.
They've got 2 years. 2 years before they're going to be in the spotlight again, generally.
Right.
And but with the public financing, it should be very easy for a candidate or a party to mount a campaign against an incumbent and shed some light. If there's some complaining to do, they've got a great opportunity to do that. They've got the ability to get public financing and to get some radio spots, to get some mailers out there and talk about the issues. And that's the way the laws were designed to give us that opportunity to do that. And I'm hoping it will happen that way, but it seems to have slacked off quite a bit.
Well, again, it's just you look at our last cycle. We had a lot of open seats. Jan Giegler in the last cycle was ran unopposed. Mike McLaughlin was ran unopposed. Yeah. And it's not just the Democratic Town Committee in Danbury's fault, because Mike McLaughlin covers a lot of area. What happened to the Bethel Town Committee? Look, for instance, Candace Fay, who ran against Dan Carter in the 2nd District. The Bethel Democratic Town Committee didn't even open up a headquarters during that cycle. Didn't even open up a headquarters during that cycle to help her out. So where's the phone banking she needs? I mean, most of the 2nd District is in Bethel.
Yep, that's the largest portion of it.
The largest portion of it, but they didn't even open up a headquarters for the person to help her with the banking and stuff. There's only so much you can do. Yeah. As a candidate, you have a certain lot of money, and that's it. Yeah. It's very important to find candidates, but when you have town committees who are just, in my opinion, just lazy or incompetent or more interested in the petty personal politics as opposed to doing what's right for their residents, you get things like that. Hopefully things will change. I don't have a lot of hope, because I've been following this for so many cycles. It's just like, I feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Waking up to Sonny and Cher every day. It's the same old thing. It's the same old song, and but we'll see what happens. But actually, I want to talk about one more quick thing, if I had a quick chance.
Absolutely.
The Donald Trump factor.
Yeah, let's talk about Donald Trump. I mean, if we can do that without, we don't have any clips of people getting clocked or or him making all kinds of derogatory remarks about almost everybody.
Yeah, there's a new ad that just came out from a PAC. I don't like PACs. New ad that came out with a PAC about Donald Trump's quotes about women for Women's History Month. I encourage everybody to watch it. Yeah. But the Donald Trump factor, it's another reson why I'm concerned.
Well, reach out and do your own clips. Yeah. Do your own search, because exactly. A commercial is a commercial, but the little studying on your part is a better way to get better information.
Absolutely.
But go ahead.
The Donald Trump factor, he was bringing out a lot of Republicans to vote. and I don't see the same level of enthusiasm on the Democratic side. And
is this in Connecticut or nationwide?
I say nationwide, and I say that only because we have Democratic incumbents here in Connecticut and Greater Danbury. You have the 109s, you have the 110. Those individuals should be put on notice and say, hey, look, this is not going to be a safe seat for you to hold on to. If Hillary Clinton becomes the nominee, of course I will support her, but there's not a whole lot of enthusiasm amongst young people who voted for Barack Obama in the last 2 cycles to come out and vote for Hillary. There's a good chance it might not be. There's a lot of enthusiasm amongst Trump supporters who felt that they could not stand Obama for the last 2 cycles, and they want to make America right again. So you better look out for that, because don't think for 1 second that type of mindset isn't happening in Greater Danbury. The same Greater Danbury that gave us Elise Marciano and the anti-immigrant movement, and those wackos, their ilk.
They're Trump folks, I guess.
And their tentacles spread pretty far. You'd be very surprised to who support that type of mindset. And those people might come out and vote. And every vote counts. So you have to hold fast and work your tail off. Don't let these incumbents, Republican incumbents, go unopposed. And if you're going to challenge them, work your tail off. Do everything you can to get out the vote. Because I think the Donald Trump influence across the country, and it will know a lot more on primary day. But I think he's going to draw out a lot of people who are upset, let's say, with Dan Malloy and his vote on gun control. Gun supporters might come out in droves and vote for Trump. People who are upset about the state of affairs of the state budget up in Hartford, which is pretty much in shambles, and we're going to have a lot of layoffs, might be very upset with the Democrats, the Democratic Party, and might come out and vote for Trump.
I've been wondering, this has been going on for a long time, because it used to be state employees got paid a fairly low salary, but they had good benefits.
Right.
And now their salaries are more in keeping with the private sector. They're closer to the private sector in terms of dollars. And yet they still retire at a fairly young age. Wouldn't it make sense to you to extend that retirement age? And if you're gonna get paid a decent salary with good benefits, shouldn't you go longer before you retire? Does that make sense?
I guess it does make a lot of sense, but there's a lot to opting out and taking off quick, too. That can save the state a lot of money.
Early retirement?
Early retirement.
I never liked it because it's retirement's generally a bad thing, I think, for most people. They retire and they're sitting home watching Drew Carey on the game shows, and they don't last real long, and they're not doing the kinds of things a person should be doing with their retirement because they're not planning for it with hobbies.
I think public employees,
like running for office or having a TV show.
I think public employees got a bad rap.
Not that I'm retired.
Although I think the deal that Rowland made back in the day with the unions it's had a very bad effect. Which is why I laugh a lot when I hear Republicans cry about the state budget. I'm like, wait a second, where were you when Rowland made that deal? A Republican governor, by the way, who made that deal, that the 20-year sweetheart deal that it's been ironclad and it caused a lot of our problems. But I think the public employees, they work very hard, and I think they got the pension program has been modified, has been changed. It isn't like the I think it was the Tier 1. That was just like, wow, what a sweetheart deal that thing was. But I think they're getting a bad rap. I know teachers are getting a bad rap in this state, and I don't want to just keep point towards public employees as the source of a lot of our problems here in the state. I really don't think it is like that, and I think we should support our public employees who do a very, very good job for us, and I can't say enough good things about teachers.
I'm going to complain about privatization, because privatization has put us in a very bad position. I mean, think about Connecticut's prisons and privatization and what that does to prisons. All it does
for-profit prisons.
It creates an industry where there's no motivation on the part of the companies that are running the prisons to ever release anybody.
Right, and again, that was their gubernatorial candidate Mark Boughton's suggestion at one point in time when he was running for governor. That's one of his big things, was privatize the jails. I'm like, wait a second, we're going to make money off of incarcerating people? I think that's
where's the nobility in that? Where's the heartfelt desire to get people back out and functioning in society?
No,
I mean, that's supposed to be the whole point of being incarcerated.
Well, it's just as disgusting as the guy from Big Pharma increasing the price of the pill by 7,000% because he can do it. It's just making money off of sick people, making money off of incarcerating people, many of whom are minorities, and many of them who are being locked up over of outrageous drug laws that don't make any sense. I'm going to segue into a quick discussion before we run out of time of Bernie Sanders and the candidacy. And Bernie's about little more than 200 pledged delegates behind Hillary Clinton, although the media, they kind of blend all the super delegates in and pretend that she's way ahead. When in fact we know from 2008 when Barack Obama when Hillary Clinton had a big chunk of super delegates, and they didn't switch till later on in the primary over to President Obama, and finish up the nomination for him. And I wish we had 30 minutes to talk about super delegates and how much I don't like super delegates in the first place.
It's a bad idea, and I think on the Republican side, a bad idea is the notion that if a guy comes within a whisker of winning a candidacy, and even though it's Donald Trump, if a candidate comes within a whisker of winning a candidacy, then if they don't get those enough votes on the first ballot, then they can get thrown out on their rear pretty quickly.
Well, it's the state of the rules, and the rules were there in the first place. You had a chance to change the rules. You got to run by what the rules are.
Likewise with super delegates.
We've been talking about. I've been hearing I can't tell you how many times I heard about complaints about super delegates, but they're there for. I mean, if you don't like it, change the rules.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, change the rules. And on the Republican side, it's going to be very interesting in Cleveland. I might take a trip out and see my sister-in-law just to get a seat at the conventions, just to see how this goes down after the first ballot. Because I don't think Donald Trump will have the delegates in hand by the time the convention happens.
Then,
and like you said, round two, all hell breaks loose.
Then I'm going to guess that if that turns out to be the case, then he'll be out, and then the party will fracture.
Yeah, which is unfortunate only because...
And with that, we're going to continue talking as we fade out. You're going to miss some of the conversation, but too bad. Watch the show again. Pretend like you got two half-hour shows instead of just one half-hour show. But there you go.
All right, well, good being here. Look, I appreciate you coming down here. I hope to see you guys again.
Just like the old days.